Hi everybody, welcome to Beyond the Lines. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and today I'm working on this page in the Outlander coloring book, taking care of all the wood paneling and the furniture. And I'm going to talk to you about, colors, shading, gardening, and a new kids channel that's gonna come up. That was the one that I was talking about. So I hope you enjoy, and here we go. The roof is done. Let's move on to the lower things. So I'm gonna start off with a couple more browns. These are all the pencils I used on this picture, well, at least on the wooden parts. And I'm gonna start from left to right now, from right to left now, because I don't want to smudge anything, and I just, quote unquote, just have to color the lower part here. There's lots of different kinds of woods and carpet things to color, and since I already took care of some of the decorative items here, I can move on and work on different kinds of browns. I want to start with the shades that I used here on the lighter part of the roof. And I don't know if you can really see it on camera, if the difference is contrasty enough, but this part here is lighter than this part here because there's a shadow in this section, and and there's like a little bit of a shadow here, so I want to start with that section with a lighter part, and I'm just going about it as I did before when I colored all of those wooden planks on the roof. I'm using Nougat to color this, because this is the pencil I used around the windows here, and it works perfectly fine with Van Dyke brown of the Neo colors. Going around all of these little bottles and jars in a squiggly way to try and get the look of wood grain. Moving on to dark sepia, doing the same thing, going over it here and there, not covering up too much. Just a little bit. I'm going a little darker underneath this pan here, or whatever it is, because it casts a shadow upon the wood. There we go, and just on the edge here I'm gonna add a tiny little bit of indigo. Just on those dark bits. All the remaining planks I'm not gonna use indigo on them because, well, the light is bouncing off of this wood, and therefore these parts are a little lighter, so I don't need to use as much indigo as I would have used on the roof, for example. So on to the next part. Going to color this one here on the right hand side, same way. And again, sepia. And here I go a little darker because this roof here casts a shadow onto the lower part, like on the wall paneling, pretty much. That's the word I was looking for. To break things up and staying with the thought of me going right to left, I'm gonna take care now of this drawer, and I think I want to introduce another shading color. I wanna split things up a tiny bit. Let's see, what do I want to use? Maybe these two? Yeah, why not? I think they're good. It's a little more of a reddish tone with the burnt sienna, and I might add a little bit of burnt umber after that. But I'm gonna start with my burnt sienna. It's way more reddish in tint than the other browns I used in the background. And this is, as you can see, way more prominent kind of color. So I'm just gonna work on that. This is, by the way, my first tea in the morning. So I started filming right after I got up. So excuse me for sipping a lot of tea in between, maybe disrupting the talking part. So these are all tiny little drawers, but I want to shade them with my burnt sienna all in one go. So I'm going to apply a bit of that pencil from the sides inwards. And then a little more on the bottom in the middle section. I want to have the neo colors peek through in the middle section. So I'm just gonna go around the frame here, around those drawers, with another layer. Tiny little bit here around the middle section where I didn't really put down any pencil. Then I move on to the other one, which was, oh gosh, my hands, burnt umber. I'm having a little bit of a achy muscle in both of my hands because I've been working on my vegetable garden, and I used my hands quite a bit, so my muscles are a little strained. Therefore, it's just a smidge more difficult for me to hold my pencils and focus on moving them, the pencils, in a way that they're not all over the place. So this is a little tricky today for me, but that's fine. If I move my muscles, my neural pathways do repair. In case you're new to the channel and you don't know, I do have multiple sclerosis, and honestly, some nasty clown just took a dump between some parts of my brain, and my nerves are quite damaged. But I do use coloring not only for my mental health and because I really like colors and I like painting and artwork and all of that, but also for pretty much physical therapy, because it builds new pathways, neural pathways, when you train your muscles. That's what I'm doing here, and really focusing on moving my pencil the way I want it to move, and really controlling things where they go, and being the boss of my neural pathways. And you gotta have a little bit of a sarcastic humor with diseases like these, so hope you don't mind me saying that a clown took a dump between my synapses. That's fine. It's just dirty humor for the days that this disease actually is pretty annoying. Which is, thank God, not most of the days. So yay! So I'm just adding tiny little more of that burnt sienna. And now, guess what? Indigo. Just a bit for the shadows that the bottles do cast onto the sideboard. Just a smidge. You see, blah. You can hardly probably see the difference on camera, but it's just very subtle, and that's enough. I don't always have to shade something very dark, because, well, some parts are more in the light of things. So I'm just adding a little bit of indigo here and there between those drawers just to darken things up. And I'm not gonna take care of the handles right now. I'm gonna do that later on when I get to the gel pen stage. So this is not finished yet, but I want to have the colored pencil part down first before I go around the page and add a little bit of gel pen here and there. All right, on to the next part. I'm gonna go with the shelf here, just give it the same treatment as I did with that drawer here. So a little bit of burnt sienna, and then onto a little bit of burnt umber on top. These bits here are so tiny that you don't need to have like 3 or 4 shading colors. it's quite sufficient, I think, to only go with 1 or 2. Just going for the sideboard or the shelf on the lower levels. Same thing with the colors. Before I color and shade those wall panels back here, I'm going to shade this desk because it's just a little easier for me to get around with the wall panels afterwards and not have the pigment transfer to the table too much. Well, the kind of colors that I don't want to have there. So I took a little bit of a lighter brown shade for this one, which leads me to grab, what are you? Brown ochre. I think that fits pretty well, and I'm just gonna bring in that pencil from the right hand side on the table legs, because the shadow is cast from behind, like from this area. There's a light coming in on the a little more towards the right in the room, but this table is firmly in the shadow area. There's not a lot of light bouncing off, just a tiny little bit from here, and that is what bounces off on the left hand side of the legs. And I'm also only shading up towards the top of the table, not underneath, because again, light is bouncing off, so it comes from the lower part, it hits the lower part of the table. Bringing in some of the brown that I used on the beams, just a tiny bit. And now these middle things here are quite thin, so I'm hardly shading them at all, just really a tiny bit, because this is where the light bounces off to. And it's getting warm in here. Let's lose the jacket. All right. Don't be alarmed by all the bruises on my forearm. They're from gardening, so I bumped quite a lot of wood into my arms because I'm a clumsy person, obviously. Quite uncoordinated. So now that I do have the table out of the way, I can move on to this particular panel here. This is a darker part. There's like no light bouncing off at all. You can see here on the carpet too, there's a dark shadowy cone going in. So I'm going to use the same colors that I used on the roof, starting with my olive green. Just going around those wooden panels again. Adding just a few squiggles for wood grain. Hold on.
Ich höre dich auf dem Audio. Kannst du Kopfhörer aufsetzen?
Bitte?
Ich sag, ich höre dich auf dem Audio. Kannst du Kopfhörer aufsetzen?
Ja, klar.
Danke dir.
Just squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. You don't have to be neat, or I think you don't have to be neat, because we want to emulate wood grain. And though it's a very pretty and quite repetitive pattern that you can see on cut wood, if you spend some time with it and look at it and do all that, you might see patterns, but still they seem random. Therefore, I think when painting, drawing, coloring wood grain, it's really a very good exercise to just let loose and be squiggly with the lines and not be too particular, and think about where those lines now might go, what density they have and all of that. So just squiggle, squiggle. The brain does the rest. So yeah, I've been talking about gardening, right? And the bruises. So we built our vegetable garden last week, end of last week. And if you haven't seen the vlog, it's all done. I can now go ahead and sow my vegetables, and I've got a couple of seeds. It's been snowing yesterday. So the day before we had blue sky, sunny weather, 20 degrees, which is 10 degrees Fahrenheit-ish. I don't know. No, it's not that cold. Is it? I'm really bad at calculating Fahrenheit in my head. I know it from cooking. Like, I know that 225 degrees Celsius is 400 Fahrenheit in the oven, because I know that from recipes. But weather, difficult. So it's maybe like, let's go the other way around. So if you have a fever, a really high one, you get 100 Fahrenheit, which is almost like 40 degrees Celsius. So that would mean that 20 degrees centigrade is around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, we had that kind of lovely spring weather 2 days ago. Blue skies, sunny weather, perfect temperature, really, really nice spring weather. And then yesterday I woke up and it was snowing. It was gray and it was snowing, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And I wanted to sow my vegetable garden yesterday in the afternoon once I got back from my partner's house. And no, that didn't happen. Because, well, it's way too cold, and some of the seeds you have to have like 15 to 20 degrees centigrade when you sow them. So I will watch the weather forecast for the next 2 days before I decide if I want to sow them. Because I don't want to have another snowy day. I don't want to ruin my seeds, because I want to harvest vegetables very soon. Like, I got some seeds for different kinds of salads. They are ready for harvest within like 4 to 6 weeks. I got some radishes, some kohlrabi. I think that's also the English word. I'm not sure. Totally forgot. But I also got things like leek, celery, or celeriac. Like, I can grow the green parts and the white part all in one. Hokkaido pumpkin. What else did I get? Zucchini. Then I got tomatoes, carrots, what else? Different kinds of herbs like mint and dill. Want to have those. Like watercress, I got that. It's more like a gardening cress. It's not the watercress exactly. So I'm gonna sow those. I didn't get any fruits because we have some berry bushes already. From last year, we just repotted them into the big grow boxes. And my gooseberry and my blueberry are really doing good. Lots and lots of fresh green leaves. I'm not sure yet about my white currant. She's a little slow. Don't know when she's gonna show the first leaves. But when we were at the gardening center to get the soil for our vegetable garden, the white currant bushes there didn't have any leaves either. So I'm guessing mine is doing good. But I also bought another bush for the fruits. I bought raspberry, so that one's also having green leaves already. And I just want to sow my vegetable garden, but I can't have any more snow, any more frost. So I'm gonna keep an eye on the weather forecast, and hopefully this week I can sow my veggies, because I want to have arugula and other kinds of salads. I bought lollo bianco, lollo rosso, arugula, and another one, like another wild salad, quite intense in taste, not something like the salad you put on burgers or whatever, like green leafy salad. I think I didn't buy spinach this year. We're going to extend those grow boxes next year, and they're gonna be not as flat as the ones that I built last week, but they're gonna be a little higher, so I can harvest food when I'm standing up instead of sitting on the ground. And for that grow box, we are planning to have strawberries and what else was it? Edible flowers, strawberries, and there was another thing, and I totally forgot what it was. But yeah, we wanted to... Oh, spinach. That was the one, spinach. Wanted to have those in the other boxes, but that's gonna happen next year only. This year we're gonna take care of that bigger part of the garden first and see how everything grows. And yeah. We actually built quite the big grow boxes. 2 of them are 2 meters by 170, and another one, the smaller one, is 80 by 2 meters. So there's a lot of soil. What was it? 1,300 liters of soil that we put into the grow boxes, just the big ones, not talking about the small ones where I keep my herbs and such, like in the pots. And I have very tiny grow boxes as well. I'm not talking about those, I'm just talking about the big vegetable grow boxes. Yeah, 1,300 liters that we carried around, that we used to fill up those grow boxes that we built. One of them I built on my own. Like Jan was bringing back the big car to his dad, because we borrowed the big car to transport all the soil and such, and the wood because the wood that we used for the grow boxes is actually recycled wood from the fish pond from Jan's dad. So he transported that wood with the big car, and we also transported the soil with the big car. And once we were done with that, I'm by the way going on to this drawer here, and I'm using the shades that I used on this little table. So once we were done and had everything unpacked from the car and stored in our garden area, he drove back, brought the car back, and that takes like a couple of hours. And meanwhile, I was building one of the grow boxes all on my own. I'm pretty proud of myself because handling that size of wood, I'm a very tiny person, guys. I'm really tiny. The 170 grow box planks, those wooden beams, they're way taller than I am. And imagine somebody who can't stand upright without something to lean on, it being a person or a mobility aid or a wall or something, handling these bigger pieces of wood. I was very proud of myself, and I realized that I do have way more upper body strength than I had anticipated. I thought I would be way more sore the next day, but I was not at all. The only thing that I was sore at were the hands, because, well, really holding on tight, lifting 60-liter soil bags into the grow box and all of that, so it was very strenuous on my hands. But I had thought I would be way more sore, and I wasn't. And most of the muscles I did use were in my upper body, because my legs are just, being very frankly, they're shitty. I can't use them as well as I can use my arms and my back and all those muscles. So I used the upper body muscles a lot, really put some weight on them. And I was surprised that, well, I wasn't sore at all. I do have a lot of bruises, like these yellow ones here, very light bruises on my legs. I look like a ladybug on my lower legs. But yeah, that's all the damage I took from gardening, and I was very surprised and quite proud of myself that I seem to have a lot of strength in my arms and in my upper body, and that this was kind of easy for me in the full sunshine, short sleeves, working all day. I worked for, let me think, I started at 9 and I was done something 6:30 or 7 p.m. All that time I was in the garden in the full sun. I don't have a sunburn or anything, yay me. And yeah, just handling heavy stuff, building things. I was very proud of myself. So, having a little bit of not that great coordination in my hands now is, I can deal with that. That's so easy. Because I know why I do struggle a bit with my hands today, and it's also something I've been wanting and longing for about almost a year. I think Jörn came up with the idea of a vegetable garden just after we moved in. So maybe like June last year he came up with that idea, and ever since I've been really longing to have that vegetable garden, and finally we got around to doing that, and I'm very happy. And of course, when you love things, when you have a passion for things, you're maybe a little more willing to go through possible pain, say of sore muscles, to achieve what you want to have. I guess at least that's how I work. I don't complain as much. I mean, I don't complain, but I I'm kind of annoyed at myself sometimes when I'm not passionate about a thing and then I have to do it and I have sore muscles from it, or bad balance or something like that. Like as a result of doing the thing, I get a little bit complainy with myself. I never voice it out loud, but like with myself, like my inner monologue. But when I'm really passionate about something and I really want something, I don't mind at all. I can have a few bruises and not be able to kneel on my lower legs for a couple of days. I don't care. It's all good because I have my garden, you know? Do you have the same thing? Do you find yourself way more patient with yourself and way more enduring with whatever pain or anything else you have to deal with when you really want something, when you're passionate about something? I wonder if everybody is the same way. And while I told you about my gardening process, ta-da! The right-hand side wall is done. And now I can decide, do I want to go with this part here or do I want to start on the lower part? I think I want to go with that wall back there. Let me think for a hot second. Yeah, but before I do that, I want to add a little more of a shadow here on this mortar and pestle, just a tiny little bit. This is in full light, like, because here's the second window and the light beam goes in something like that, so it's a lot lighter, not as much contrast, but I need a tiny little bit of contrast to not have it get lost on the page. That's the thing that I find, especially for beginners maybe, I find a little difficult. I'm taking the brown pencil for this chest back here. Is when you have something, an object, say in this case, the pestle and mortar, hit by direct sunlight, how to color this section or that object, have a lot of contrast, but still not shade to the point where you have very dark shadows in sections where actually there's hardly any shadow because the light hits directly. I think that I try to remember back when I started coloring or painting, drawing back in the day, like when I was really young. Did I struggle with that? I think I did. I never really struggled with I'm taking the burnt sienna, by the way, the one that I used on this shelf. I think I never really struggled as much when it came to objects that are having a very distinct shadow, so that are not sitting like in a highlight spot like here with those windows, but that are maybe like this chest here, partially in the shadow, and there's things around that that cast shadows on an object. I never really had a lot of trouble with painting or coloring those and getting my values correct for the shadow. But in the beginning it was really, really difficult for me to shade objects correctly that are in full swing, like full highlight spot of say, for example, a window or something. I guess not being tempted to use too dark colors, but still use colors that are dark enough, and getting them down on the right part of your object of your painting or drawing or whatever it is. I guess that is something that very many people struggle with when they're beginners at coloring or drawing, painting, yada yada yada, fill in the blank. And that is still quite difficult, even after so many years that I've been doing artwork, where it's not difficult in the sense that I really struggle with it, but it's more like, okay, I gotta be very aware. I might not be able to talk. Meanwhile, I really have to think about the physics. Where does the shadow go? Where does light bounce off and has the absolute highlight? Where do I have midtones? Yada 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 yada. All of that. I gotta think about that a little more in the front of my head instead of in the back of my head. And I guess very many people maybe have the same thing. I wonder if they do. If you happen to recognize yourself with that description, let me know in the comments, because I'm curious. Or maybe you are one of the people that maybe has a little more trouble with shading really dark parts, but no trouble at all with getting the right values on something that is sitting in a highlight spot. I'm curious, you gotta let me know. All right. Do I want to have the back wall first or first the furniture? I think I'm opting for the furniture first, just like I did with these two guys here. So I'm taking my brown ochre and this is in the dark shadow area, so don't have to think about highlights. I just can color it and shade it in a way that is pretty to the eyes. So I'm leaving a little bit of the what's it called? Neo colors. Talking, guys. Of the neo colors visible underneath, and I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. Allergy season. Yay! I don't know what the yellow bushes are called in English, but here's your German lesson for the day. In Germany, we have yellow bushes that blossom around Easter time, and they are called Forsythia. Very pretty bushes, really, really lovely. But I'm allergic to them, so I'm sneezing a lot. Allergic as heck. But they're so pretty. We don't have very many growing around here. They're further away from the house, but still, there's enough pollen getting to my patio that whenever I sit outside, I get a little bit of a sneezy wheezy. Yes, and that's a technical term. I'm sure. Sorry, guys. All right. Want to go a little more on the yellow tint here. And adding a tiny little bit of sepia. Sorry for my head being in the way, probably. But the oily the oily part of the polychromos makes like an oily film on the paper, and with the angle that I'm sitting in and the lights that I have switched on for filming, they do bounce off the paper, and I can't really see very well when I need to put in very tiny details, so I gotta change my position, and then probably I do have my big old head in the frame. Hooray, allergy season. Oh well. It's just like every spring. Okay. The good thing is, it's a little different this year than 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had very, very warm weather in March and April, and quite cool weather beforehand. So we had like 30 degrees in April, which is about 70, yeah, 75 degrees Fahrenheit maybe. And because we had very cool weather beforehand and then this very hot weather, everything bloomed at the same time. So usually we have hazelnut bushes first, for example. And then like 3 weeks later, we do have the so-called forsythia. That year, everything blossomed at the same time. I had so much trouble with my allergies. It was really horrible that year. This year, it's just a normal year. First, it's the hazelnut, and then it's the forsythia, and then it's, what is the English name? It's a kind of grain, but that's only in August when they harvest that I do get allergies, but otherwise I'm fine. But I will always remember that particular year. Like 2018 was really something else when it came to the spring weather and therefore the allergies. Good thing that we have 2020, huh? Where every sneeze is thought to be corona instead of allergies. Yeah, I know, sarcasm. I'm gonna rein it in. So just a little bit of the sepia. By the way, guys, I'm not all that sure how many of you watchers of this series are German speakers, but I wanted to put it in the video anyways. I have decided, because I have been asked, to do art videos for kids. So I'm currently in the process of setting up a second channel. I will definitely tell you about it in the vlogs and such, but I thought, why not talk about it here, where I know that my artists are watching, not only my gamers. So I'm gonna set up another channel, second one, only for kids. I had first thought, okay, I'm just adding those videos here to this channel, but with YouTube's new regulations in regards to content for kids, I didn't want to mix up my videos, because all my videos on this particular channel here are for adults. I always click no, they are not made for kids, and they aren't. So I didn't want to have kids content on this channel, because then I would have to check out all of my other old videos and say they're only 16 years and up or 18 years and up. And I didn't want to go through thousands of videos, honestly. And I don't want kids to be able to peruse adult content when they watch a kid's video on this particular channel. I don't want them to be able to just click on the recommended and they get like an adult coloring or art video, even if it is well, I don't have offensive content, but there's just different ways to explain something to a kid and to an adult, or there's different things I talk about. They don't have to have all the nitty and gritty details of my symptoms for MS, for example. I don't want them to have access to that. Only with their parents sitting beside them, and then the parent can go to this channel instead of the kids just perusing, you know? So I decided I'm setting up a separate channel for the kids' art content, and it's gonna be in German, because I've been asked by a couple of German speakers, like kids, that don't speak any English, quite young kids, as young as 7 or 8 years old. I've been asked to do art videos. So I'm going to do that. I do have a full list of things that they want to see, what topics I'm going to... what topics I'm going to talk about, like all the things that are artwork, all the things that I do discuss for adults in these kinds of videos, like Art Day and also Beyond the Lines. But I'm gonna set it up in a kid-friendly way so that they understand what I'm talking about and not get the overload. And also the other thing is video length. So instead of a max of 2 hours that I'm filming for one video, I am looking at shorter times, which honestly is something I really, I have to think about how I'm gonna set that up. I'm currently at the point that I wanna publish 2 videos a week. Like one of the videos explaining the concept, say for example light and shadow on a round object, and then have a second video later in the week where the learned stuff or the explanation that I gave for something is actually then set into action when it comes to drawing or coloring or something. Yeah, that's the concept that I'm currently going with. I still have to think about it a bit, and the next couple of days I'm actually working on specific video ideas and have maybe like a test run, film something, see how I'm doing with timing, because I want to keep the real time as well that I do have with my adult art videos. I don't want to have time lapse, because you know, with real time the kids can really see how I move my hand, how I put things down, where I do what, yada yada yada, and that I think is kind of lost when I would go for time lapse sessions. But some of the things I can't maybe even draw in 20 minutes. So I'm thinking, okay, what is my schedule going to be? Am I gonna post every week, or am I gonna post one big project with 4 or 5 videos that are split up in 20-minute sections, like once a month? I don't know. That are things that I'm thinking about right now. Sorry for the English-speaking kids that you might have, my non-German speaking folks. I can't do that in English as well. But for now it's only gonna be in German. I don't know what the future holds, so it might be that this really kicks off and I might be able to have a translator or something hired. I don't know, but for now it's just gonna be a one-woman show, and I don't want to work any less on this channel here and substitute the kids channel for it, so I only have so much time. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a ride. But yeah, I mean, with Corona now I do have the opportunity to film a little more, because honestly there's just not a lot of things I can do that I would do normally, like going out to the movies and such. I do that when everything's fine, but not now. So I do have like 3 or 4 hours that I would have spent differently normally. I do have them now to film, and that's what I'm doing. Filming a lot, putting stuff in the can to well, have like a buffer for the time being when Corona is done and I can include other things into my daily life again. It's also going to be different, that too, but also interesting to see. I mean, I gotta change the way I talk about art, because, well, you gotta talk in a way that is understandable for kids. I gotta use different kinds of words maybe. So I'm really curious how that's gonna go. And I don't want to use like small children's kind of language, but like 8 to 15 years old maybe. So more like a preteen and teen as my target audience, because that is the age of the kids that requested the channel from me or the videos. So I gotta see how I do handle the language thing. I think it's a learning curve. I mean, yeah. So this week I'm gonna be doing a lot of work for that new channel, like setup, thumbnails, names of the shows. Am I gonna name shows? Just like admin stuff behind the channel, a channel trailer. Gotta record that, record the first couple of videos to put them on live when I'm gonna release or I'm going to publish things on that channel. To have a couple of videos already in stock and uploaded for when I'm going live with that show, that channel. All right, that is what does the time say? Okay, I got a little more time. I'm gonna make myself a new tea maybe, at least I gotta pee, and then I'm gonna, in a magic editing moment, get to this shelf here. All right, on we go. I'm going to start with my light yellow brown here for the shelf in the back. This is a little bit of a darker section, but I still want to keep some of the neo colors visible underneath and not cover it all up. So the further I go towards the left, the more I cover up, but I'm keeping some of the spots visible. On the right hand side. Going on top with the burnt ochre. I'm going way darker with this particular shelf than I did with this one and this part here. Maybe a little more towards this part here, because this is in the very dark part of the room. So there's hardly any sunlight hitting or any light bouncing off of anything at all. Which means that I'm gonna bring in the burnt sienna. And as you can see, I'm not taking care of any of the books or jars or bottles or anything as of now. I'm gonna add maybe a little bit of black and indigo later on, but for now I'm just solidly coloring this shelf with all the browns. And I'm gonna bring in my sepia. I'm leaving the front of these, like the shelves, like these front beams, I'm leaving them without the sepia, but concentrating on the dark here in these other sections, and I just had too much of sepia here. This is what I meant with, it's a little difficult for me to control my hands today, but yay for an eraser. Going back to my burnt sienna for the shadows underneath the shells. All right. Adding just a tiny little bit of my light brown again. And oh, I need to color that lower part. So I'm bringing in my burnt sienna again. And then a little bit of sepia here for those very dark bits. And I'm blending that out with a little bit of my brown ochre. Just to have it look a little more smooth. So on to all the trinkets in there. I'm using indigo, Payne's gray, and black. So here on those lighter parts, I'm gonna use just a little bit of Payne's gray. And indigo. Same here on this shelf. And I'm not being very particular with staying within the lines because it's just a little squiggle here and there. Those items are way too far away from the viewer to have any detail or anything. A little more of the Payne's gray. And then I'm gonna move on to the black and color the rest. Because they're mostly in the very dark shadow parts of the shelf. And of course all of the books here need to be treated with a little bit of a black as well. There we have a shelf. Now I can move on to that desk here. This is pretty much the same. Woo! Of course, I shouldn't throw my pencils, you say? That is the same way. Oh, and there's books up here, so I'm going to shade them just with that brown ochre. Nothing else on top. Then I can move on to the desk. There's a little bit of light bouncing off here on the front. So I'm gonna leave quite a bit of the neo color peeking through. And same goes for this bench here. And then moving on to my burnt sienna. I'm going for the shadow bits first. So there's the dark here as well. Because they point away from the source of light. Taking a little bit of sepia as well, because here where the dark hits, so where there's no light bouncing off of anything, just want to darken things up a little bit. It's also just for the purpose of enhancing contrast, just intensifying that difference between light and dark. Getting a little bit more of a color here on those drawers. And I'm again not taking care of the handles right now because that is for me to do when I move on to gel pens. And I've got this drawer or desk or whatever cupboard back here. So I'm just gonna go over it with my burnt sienna pencil. And then I'm gonna use sepia to darken things up here as well. It's a little difficult here to color on the spine, but I'm gonna manage. There we go. Now I can move on to that bit behind behind the desk, and I'm gonna use the same colors that I used for the roof. So I'm starting off with olive green again. Moving on to sepia. And then of course, gonna bring in indigo. Since this is a part of the room that doesn't really have any light bouncing off, I'm gonna go pretty dark. Pretty much all over the place here with my indigo, and then I'm gonna add Payne's Gray to darken it even further. And I'm probably also gonna opt to bring in a little bit of black. Gonna add a little more of the brown sepia just to adjust that tint. And then onto the black for shading and bringing in at least a tiny little bit of a pattern here. So you can't really see the separate individual planks because it's just very dark down there. But still want to bring in at least a little bit of detail, at least in those areas where there's a tiny little bit of light bouncing off. Like here, for example. Okie dokie. So let's check the clock. I think I'm gonna end the video here today, and next week I'm going to take care of the floor and the focal point up here, and then maybe I even have time to bring in the gel pens to finish this page up, because honestly I want to go on to this one here, to the next one. So I thank you very much for watching. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I will get back to you as quickly as possible, and all the pencils, all the numbers I used today are on my blog, so in the description box below there's a link to my webpage, which is pinselgeschichten.de, and there you can enter this video name into the search bar in case you're watching this way after it's been released. and find the accordant blog post where I list all of the pencils that I used today in case you like the color combo and want to use it on your own for your own artwork. I will see you next week with the next part. Again, thanks for watching. If you like this video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, for one, please subscribe. And second, peruse the channel. There's lots of art videos, board game videos, vlogs, and anything. So maybe there's something that you like. Take good care, folks. Have fun. And I'm gonna see you next week. Bye.